I want to teach you many different phrasal verbs. Not only that, I want to teach you some super advanced phrasal verbs that you can use in everyday conversation, but these are phrases that are really going to help you be more descriptive. And if you are someone who enjoys building your vocabulary, please subscribe, turn on notifications, then I can become your teacher. My name is Wes. The channel is Interactive English. It's all about trying to help you reach your fluency goals. And in this case, I want to help you build your vocabulary. And I know I always make this guarantee, but I promise by the end of the lesson, you will learn something new. I definitely think one or two or three or more of these phrasal verbs will be new. And if you would like to access these lesson notes, click on the link down below in the description, join our email community, and then you can download them. If you're already a part of the community, check your inbox. I have sent them to you. Of course, this is a quiz lesson, so I would love it if you participate, write your answers in the chat or in the comments. This is, after all, interactive English. So let's begin with our first question. And for this first set of questions, basically I'm giving you the verb and then the particle is missing. So it's going to get a little more challenging as we go through this. So in this case, just know that the first few questions, the particle is missing. Surprisingly, the team was able to eke a victory. I've highlighted part of the phrasal verb. So the verb is to eke. So maybe this verb is new for you, which is great. And then we're going to follow that with what particle? To eke. Surprisingly, the team was able to eke a victory. This is again, a phrasal verb that's a little more specific, a little more precise, but you will come across it from time to time, and certainly it is advanced. Now, the correct answer is to eke out. Excellent. Great job, Lolly. Surprisingly, the team was able to eke out a victory. This means to obtain or win something only with difficulty or great effort. So in this case, you're talking about, well, to win, to eke out a victory. That is a common collocation. But also to eke out, it makes me think you're able to obtain something when it comes to numbers. So to give you some more context with this phrasal verb, I have some news headlines. And let's just go ahead and look at them. Stocks eke out gains amid growing political noise. So they are able to obtain gains. And again, talking about numbers, you're going to eke out gains. Or this next one, how Maduro could eke out another win. This headline is a little old. Venezuela just had their elections. It's being contested. But another example using eke out a victory, eke out a win. And then finally, smartphone market in India, eke out mere 1% growth in Q2. Once again, we're talking about a number, and there you're trying to eke out gains or eke out growth. Again, very more advanced phrasal verb, but one that you may still come across. Here is the next question. I'd like to mull it before making a final decision. I like this phrasal verb because I do think it is a little more informal, which again relates to just that everyday conversation. I'd like to mull it before making a final decision. One thing I'll point out about this phrasal verb is that just in the example, you can see that this is separable. We have the verb followed by it, and then we're going to follow that with the particle. I feel like this one's a little more common. You guys rocked it. Yes, we're talking about to mull it over. I'd like to mull it over before making a final decision, to think carefully about something for a long time. I think often you might hear this phrasal verb being used like somebody says they want to think about it, and you're like, look, take your time, just mull it over. Don't worry about it. Mull it over. Give it some consideration. Excellent. Great job, everyone. Rafaela, Lolly, great to see you. Angela, perfect. All right. Good to see so many familiar faces, familiar names, I should say. So I thought I wanted to include this. I thought it's humorous in this case. It's a meme using this phrasal verb, but also it's a play on words. So it says, I must ask you a question. So instead of mustache, I must ask you a question, but I will give you time to mull it over. So mullet, again, at the back of the head, you can see this guy has a mullet, but we're using it as a play on words, to mull it over, to think about it. I thought it was humorous, so I try to throw some of these memes in here from time to time. How about this one? I feel like this one is, if you've been following U.S. politics, this phrasal verb has been used a lot in the last couple of weeks. There's so much anger in politics, people need to tone the rhetoric. We're going to follow that verb, tone, with which particle? There's so much anger in politics, which I feel like is, in general, is true. People need to tone the rhetoric. Again, this is a collocation, to tone the rhetoric. You'll hear that. These are words that are frequently used with this phrasal verb. And you guys rocking it. Perfect. To tone down. Great job, Rafaela, Joanna, Tilla. I'm going to try to give some shout outs as we go through this, but it means to make something less forceful or offensive. To tone down the rhetoric, the way that people are talking about one another. I wanted to give you some more collocations with this phrasal verb. So, as we just mentioned, to tone down the rhetoric. You could also use it in the context of, well, toning down the expectations, or toning down your expectations. Or to tone down one's language to make it less offensive. If somebody is using maybe a lot of profanity and hey, you need to tone down your language. You could also tone down your excitement. If maybe you're too excited about something and I want to lower those expectations, say, look, I think you need to tone down your excitement, or to tone down your response. If you are writing a very forceful response and then you review it and look back over it and think, okay, I probably need to tone down the response and not make it as forceful. So these are some common collocations with the phrasal verb tone down. What do you think? Will you rehearse with me? I'd like to run my lines. I have to be careful when I'm reading these because, I don't know, generally I just want to end up saying the phrasal verb and then give you the answer. But I want to give you a moment to think about which particle fits this sentence to, well, complete the phrasal verb. Will you rehearse with me? I'd like to run my lines. I think if you have ever watched something related to acting or theater or a play, you would hear this phrasal verb, let's run our lines, or I need to run my lines. And the missing particle, you are going to run through your lines. In this case, will you rehearse with me? I'd like to run through my lines, which means to discuss, repeat, or read something quickly. It's like getting a quick practice in before the show begins, and you're going to run through your lines. Well done. Excellent. Saw some great answers in there. Sabina, good to see you. Excellent. Mukesh, perfect. To run through. So once again, think about this in the context of acting, theater, and you're going to run through your lines. Again, another common collocation. I'll point some of these out as we go through the quiz. I'm switching it up now, and this time I'm not giving you any part of the phrasal verb, but I'm giving you the meaning down below. This is going to be a little more challenging. However, I think these next few phrasal verbs are maybe a little more commonly used, so hopefully you can come up with the answer. Think about this situation. Exams are coming up, and I really need to what? What phrasal verb completes this sentence? The meaning of this phrasal verb is to get serious about your work. You're focusing diligently on the task at hand. I will say that this is a phrasal verb that I feel like parents would say to their children in high school and they say, I want you to get serious. I want you to what? Exams are coming up. I really need you to do what? Or in this case, and I really need to, like you're telling yourself, I do see an answer in there. And the correct response is buckle down. Keep in mind, you're going to follow this buckle down. In this way, buckle up would be more referring to sitting into a car and putting your seatbelt on. Everybody buckle up. In this case, buckle down means you just need to get serious about the work you're doing. Excellent, Joanna, well played. So think about that as far as this context of studying and you need to get serious. A lot of times you're going to use this when talking about school, education. You could use this when talking about work. Maybe you have a big project and you're telling a friend, like, I really got to buckle down and focus on this project and just get it done. But most of the time, I think you may use this or hear this being used in the context of education. What do you think about this next question? After returning from vacation, she opened the windows in order to the room. The meaning of this phrasal verb is to expose something to fresh air, often to improve the scent. What do you think? What is the missing phrasal verb? I feel like this one probably, based on the situation, the example sentence I'm giving you, hopefully it makes it much easier in order to come up with the verb and the particle. After returning from vacation, she opened the windows in order to the room. And I really do think that if you come back from vacation, maybe it smells a little musky, and this might be one of the first things you do. You open the windows in order to what? The correct answer is air out. You want to air out the room. You're exposing it to fresh air. You want to improve the scent, the smell, because like I said, if you're gone for a while, it may smell a little musky in there. I want you to keep in mind that this phrasal verb, it does have multiple meanings. So to air out, like to air out the room, to air out the car, you're exposing it to fresh air. I've given you a couple of example sentences there. I'm trying to air out the car to get rid of the smell. Or we really need to air out the home or the house. It may also mean to discuss or address an issue openly. So think about these example sentences. It's important to air out any grievances, and you want to address these things. Or I think we should air out some of our concerns. So when it comes to phrasal verbs, many of them have multiple meanings. This is one of them. And I think that's another part of what makes phrasal verbs a bit more challenging. So in this case, to air out has a couple of different meanings, but great job. If you're learning something new, I told you I think you'll learn something new, or if you've already learned something new, you can let me know. Hit that like button or hit some of those hearts, those smiley emojis. As soon as I see them going, I think, okay, this is good. I need to maybe do more phrasal verb lessons. I have a stack of financial reports that I have to over the weekend. Now, the meaning of this phrasal verb is to finish reading, eating, or dealing with something with difficulty. I want to add to this a little more to make it a little easier. So you would use this phrasal verb in the context of there's a lot of something and you're going to really just do it over a certain period of time and you're not really going to take a break. So in this case, you're doing it over the weekend and you're just going to, boom, go ahead and do it and finish it. A lot of times it would be, involving eating, reading, or just dealing with something that is challenging. It is difficult. There are, now that I'm saying, again, I feel like there are some other phrasal verbs that you could use. So people said, oh, I'm going to go through it over the weekend. Yes, that would work. However, I think a key part is like the difficulty. Or I'm going to run through it over the weekend. I would still say that's acceptable. But if you want to add that aspect of saying this is going to be difficult, it's going to be challenging, it's not really something that I want to do, but I'm just going to, put my head down and go ahead and do it. In that case, as I'm trying to add some more context to this, you could plow through it. I'm going to over the weekend, or I'm going to run through it over the weekend. That works. I don't want to say that is incorrect, because in some of these sentences there are multiple phrases, in this case multiple phrasal verbs that you could use. But in this specific context in which I want to imply that something is challenging, it's really difficult, and I just want to finish it and get it done, I'm just going to plow through it. I want to plow through it over the weekend. I want to give you a little more context because I think this is a trickier one, and I have some more news headlines for you. The first one, we used to publish Farmers Weekly. Now we help clients plow through data, and there's a lot of it. It's challenging, and they help their clients plow through, a lot of data. How about this one? I thought I could plow through the pandemic without burning out. I was wrong. This is a good example of it being used in context. You're trying to plow through this time period, which was the pandemic, without burning out, and this person was wrong. I feel like many of us perhaps thought we could just plow through the pandemic without burning out, and, well, for me, that was not the case. I also was not able to do it. And then finally, down below, farmers across the state plow through the pain of an uncertain future. It's challenging, it's difficult, and you just want to get through it to the other side, and you're just trying to plow through it. What do you think? She was able to her 15 minutes of fame. This is a little more challenging, and perhaps this is a phrasal verb that once I show you, maybe like, okay, yes, I've heard of it, but in this context, it will be a little more difficult to guess. She was able to her 15 minutes of fame. Now, the meaning of this phrasal verb is to take advantage of or exploit a situation. And when I say you're taking advantage of it, typically there's money involved, and that is a little bit of a hint. There's a financial gain involved, and that is one of the ways in which you are taking advantage of this situation, or you are exploiting this situation. She was able to her 15 minutes of fame. The next hint that I'll give you is that this is a 3-word phrasal verb. So a 3-word phrasal verb, which implies that there is some financial gain that has been made. What phrasal verb could you use to complete this sentence? I'll give you just a few seconds to think about it, and then I'll tell you the answer, because like I said, I think it's one that maybe you've heard of, and once I show you the answer, you'll know it. But in this context, it can be a little more challenging to come up with the 3-word phrasal verb, cash in on. She was able to cash in on her 15 minutes of fame. So if you're able to cash in on something, that's essentially what it means. You're taking advantage of a situation or exploiting a situation, typically to have, well, some sort of financial gain. And that was a hint in terms of cash, money, and you're able to cash in on, in this case, her 15 minutes of fame, which I wanted to point out is an idiom. So if you're unfamiliar with this idiom, it refers to a brief period of celebrity or notoriety. So if something goes viral on TikTok or YouTube, and this person is unknown, and then suddenly everybody's talking about this person before they lose this period of when they become a celebrity, you could refer to it as, oh, they're getting their 15 minutes of fame. And often, if somebody has their 15 minutes of fame, you might want to cash in on it and take advantage of it. So that's where I thought it was relevant with this idiom. Now, I'm switching it up again. This is also going to be perhaps a bit challenging. I'm not giving you the phrasal verb, but I'm giving you synonyms. These are words that are not always interchangeable, but they have a similar meaning. You should add some more lights in order to the place. And we're talking about to beautify something, to accessorize, what phrasal verb could you use that has a similar meaning? And yeah, you might use it in this context, referring to a place like a room in your home. We don't really know the specific place, but you want to add more lights in order to the place. Actually, I would say that's what I'm going to go ahead and say, well done, Sky. Spruce up is one that you could use. That would be correct. But it's not the one that that's not the one I have. But it does have that's actually another phrasal verb that is a synonym and has a similar meaning. Brighten up, I think, would also work. But brighten up would specifically make me think of really colors. And again, but that would also work in this context. Again, not the one that I'm thinking of. So even if some of these others are new, like to spruce up, to brighten up, but the one that I was going to teach you is to jazz up. If you want to jazz up the place, you're making something more attractive and interesting. And again, some of those other phrasal verbs that people mentioned, brighten up, spruce up, they have a similar meaning as well. So I think those would also work. The next one, again, we're learning a lot of different phrasal verbs. Well, actually, because I thought maybe this is one that might be new for some of you, I wanted to give you some more example sentences just so you can see how it's used in context. He jazzed up the food with some seasoning. So in this case, we talked about a place. You could jazz up, brighten up, spruce up. They're not always interchangeable. I could use jazz up when talking about food, like some seasoning. In this case, you wouldn't use brighten up, because that's specifically talking about colors. And I don't even think I would use spruce up in this context. I would go with, yeah, you jazzed up the meal with some seasoning. I could also say Coca-Cola jazzed up its bottles with new designs. I don't know if this is true. This is not a sponsored video, but just as an example. Or it's entirely up to you if you want to jazz up or tone down your look. I wanted to use both of those phrasal verbs. You want to jazz up your look and make it more appealing, or maybe you just want to tone it down a little bit and, not have it be so, exciting or out there. You could jazz up or tone down. Those are really opposites. What do you think about this next one? I think we need to some of the details before we make an offer. So the missing phrasal verb has a similar meaning to discuss or agree on. I think we need to some of the details before we make an offer. What do you think? I appreciate that, Jawad. That I love it to hear if I am jazzing up your life with these live streams, with these lessons. Love it. So in this case, we're talking about discussing something. You're trying to agree on it. I think we need to hash out some of the details before we make an offer. There are other phrasal verbs that you could use in context. I see some people like to go through some of the details, to go over. Though that would work as well. But I wanted to specifically point out, hash out. This is probably a bit more advanced and more specific. When you're hashing out something, you are discussing it, and it does really imply that you're trying to come up with some sort of a compromise. That's agreement is important, because the meaning of it is to talk about something with someone else in order to reach an agreement about it, and you're trying to hash out some of the details. So there is a difference between going over some of the details, which is more reviewing them. But if you want to hash out some of the details, it would imply that you're going to discuss it in order to have agreement on the specifics before making an offer. What do you think about the next one right here? Oh, again, forgot that I had some of these little funny jokes in here just for your entertainment. This is just something I found online. Glad we hashed it out with these two McDonald's hash browns right here, saying, look, they made up, they solved their problems, they've come to an agreement, and we've hashed things out. So you might also use it if you're telling someone, like, look, you need to discuss things and agree upon it. You need to hash things out, or you need to hash it out. Again, if this is new, let me know. Hit that like button or some of those hearts. Then I can know, like, yes, this is good. I say it's everyday conversation because, again, I feel like some of these phrasal verbs are ones you might hear in movies, TV shows, more in general conversation. Even though, as I've shown you with some of these news headlines, you may come across them when you're reading an article as well. What do you think about this next one? Government regulators are starting to artificial intelligence. They are directing their attention towards artificial intelligence, or they're focusing on artificial intelligence. Which phrasal verb best completes this? There are actually two that I would say are correct and would work. Both of them are three-word phrasal verbs, and that is a quick little hint that I'll give you before telling you the answer. And I already see a correct answer in the chat, which is to zero in on. Excellent. Well done. Julia, Miranda, nice. So if you are zeroing in on something, you are directing your attention towards a particular thing. In this case, government regulators, they're starting to zero in on artificial intelligence. We need to deal with this situation and come up with some legislation. The other one that I said that you could use too, and you could use zero in on or even hone in on. And I wanted to talk very quickly about these because zero in on is one that has multiple meanings. To zero in on something, I believe I got this from Macmillan Dictionary. And it has a few multiple meanings, but the number 3 there, where I put that check mark, it says to focus one's attention on something. To hone in on has that same similar meaning, to focus or concentrate on something. So in that context, you could either use to zero in on or to hone in on. I know it's small and it's hard to see, but if you're talking about zeroing in on, like to direct your line of vision, you're looking at something, or it also says to get incrementally closer to something, like a physical location, zeroing in on. Something to keep in mind that even though these phrasal verbs, they have multiple meanings, in certain situations, they may overlap. And in this case, you could use either one, to zero in on or to hone in on. What do you think about this one? I was only teasing him when he suddenly at me. The phrasal verb that's missing is to yell or to attack. They're not direct synonyms, but they are similar. Again, this is I feel like in this situation, you're being descriptive. You're describing something that happened suddenly, and this person like yelled at you, or you could say they at you and use this phrasal verb. Any guesses which verb and particle I could use that would fit this context? I was only teasing him when he suddenly lashed out at me. Well done, Alan, Joanna, Julia. It means to suddenly attack someone or something physically, or criticize him, her, or it in an angry way, and somebody is lashing out, and they're lashing out at you. Again, this is another little fun thing you could look at. I'm going to lash out irrationally at the next person to take something from my desk, use my phone, or ask me what I'm eating, and they're going to lash out irrationally. Here is a review of all the phrasal verbs, and I know I'm giving you a lot. It's difficult, especially if many of them are new. I know it seems like Deborah talking about how can we learn these? What's the best way to do that? I think it takes time, especially with phrasal verbs. I think reading is a great way to do that. You come across them and just learning them this way, watching video lessons, participating in these quiz lessons, trying to figure it out. The more exposure that you get to these phrasal verbs and trying to understand the meaning, you're just going to start to remember them over time and then use them in context. Of course, these are definitely more advanced. They are more specific, but try to keep them in mind because you will hear them in specific situations like the ones I just mentioned, like somebody lashes out at you, or in the context of education, telling your students, like if any of you are teachers out there, you could use buckle down and say, I want you to really get serious. I want you to buckle down and study hard for the exam. To give you a little quick review now, I'm going to try to use some of them in context because I know that I have kind of plowed through these phrasal verbs in the last 30 minutes, but I hope some of these were new for you, and you can use them as a way to jazz up your conversations or jazz up your writing and making it a little more captivating. And I hope that you will watch another video lesson to help you continue building your vocabulary. It's just something that you can mull over. You don't have to do it, but please mull it over. And probably I should start wrapping things up. I don't want to drag this out too long. I don't want to upset you and then maybe you lash out at me. I know that's not going to happen. I just wanted to give you one last example with these. But seriously, I do think if you study hard, if you buckle down and keep practicing, you're just going to learn them slowly over time. I know I'm throwing a lot at you, but you can get these lesson notes. Click on that link down below. If you're already a part of our community, I've sent them to you. And I know I always like to do this with these quiz lessons. How did you do? I'm going to put a quiz in the chat there and let me know how you did, because I'm kind of curious if this was a little too difficult. How did you do on the quiz? And let's just make it great, which I would say would be 75% to 100%. Good, maybe 50% to 75%. And then I need to buckle down. Let's use it. And let's say 50% or less. Actually, if you got half of them correct, I think that's still really good. That you have a high level of proficiency for being able to identify even half of these. Even though in that little quiz I said you need to buckle down. It's okay. I'm already seeing like most people saying that they need to buckle down, which is good, because when it comes to building your vocabulary, there's always so much to learn, to improve, to do. But ultimately, if this were a competition, if learning English were, I'll give you a sport analogy, I am confident that you, even after all this hard work, you'll be able to eke out a victory. Okay, so for those of you, some of you did great. That is incredibly impressive. Well done. But I'm always glad if I can come away from these lessons knowing that some of this was new and that you learned 1, 2, or 3 new things. Thank you guys so much for being here, especially the members, Deborah, Lolly, Rafaela, great to see you. Some of the people in Speak Up as well, Takayo, Rafaela, and those who are always here with me, Manuel, Angela, Talal, Sabina, good to see you. Jock been here. I know, good to see you too. Long time. I hope that you all enjoyed the lesson. Hit that like button. Let me know so I can probably do some more advanced phrasal verb lessons in the future. I will end the poll right now as well as end this lesson. Thank you. Have a great day, and